If you're applying for jobs right now but have no prior experience, you're probably feeling pretty stuck. Here's what you can do. Hi, I'm Laura, a PM working in tech, and on my channel I cover my life working as a PM, my life working in tech, and other computer science related advice. The first and really most important thing to do is to accept where you are and accept that you have no experience, and that's going to be a slightly harder process because of it. So whether you're a super gung-ho first-year student looking for their first internship, or a fifth-year senior that's looking for a full-time job after they graduate, having no experience is just going to make your life a little bit tougher. This is because you're going to be competing against other first year, second years, and fifth years that do have prior experience and are applying for the same exact roles, jobs, and positions that you are, so they have a little bit of an edge over you already. If you are fortunately a little bit earlier on in your collegiate journey, such as a first or second year student, there is a little bit more luck since there are going to be fewer students that do have experience at that level. There are also going to be first and second year specific internships that don't expect you to have prior experience and are really catering towards students who don't have any experience to begin with. So this probably all sounds like doom and gloom so far, and you're probably saying, well, Laura, great, thanks for all this information. What do I actually do with it? This is just part of the course, and I want to be realistic that it's going to be difficult to get your first internship or first full-time job. There's going to be a lot of luck involved and also a lot of effort on your end probably. So now that this has been established, let's talk about how to get that first piece of experience under your belt. The second most important thing to do is to not neglect your resume. Well, maybe you're saying, Laura, I can't have a good resume because I don't have any prior experience to put on here, so it's just super blank and empty. But that's the problem. If you keep having a blank and empty resume that doesn't really stand out or have a lot of polish to it, then you're just going to keep running into the same issue where you never get picked on for an interview because you don't have that outstanding resume that someone else may have, and that also includes experience. So in lieu of having experience, you're going to have a resume that stands out in other capacities and shows your potential and qualities as a potential candidate. But it's really more about making sure that everything you do put on your resume has an impact, a purpose, and ties to your overall story that you're trying to sell of yourself. To make a great resume, I really recommend taking everything you've ever done relevant to potential field or job you're applying for and create a master resume. This should include the basic points such as any education you've had, any experience you've had, any skills, projects, involvement, etc. that you think belongs on a resume. Then at the end of this experience, take everything that you've written on your master resume and cut ruthlessly until you're down to one page that you think is important and relevant to the job applications that you're applying for. From then, once you have your one-page resume, revise, revise, revise. The most common mistakes is that you're probably lacking numbers or quantifying the impact that you've actually done or what your role was. Talk about how you cut down loading time for a API by 100% and that really enabled the developer productivity to skyrocket by another X% over a certain period of time. This gives the impression that you're actually working to measure success and that you're able to measure what you've done against those measures and criteria of success. Third is to expand your horizons with where you're applying. If you're just straight gunning for a unicorn startup or big tech internship or full-time offer out of the gate, then it's probably going to be more of an uphill battle than if you were to expand your horizons and look out. Your first employer is going to be taking on a pretty big risk bringing you on board because you don't have an established experience record or people who can really speak to your quality of work when it comes to a corporate setting and dealing with things that you aren't taught in school. The big tech companies have more than enough candidates to go around too, so often your chances are going to be pretty slim compared to other candidates out there that do have stacks on stacks of internships under their belt. If pay and prestige are really important to you, which by all means is totally fine, then at least look outside the purview of big tech, unicorns, and startups, and go outwards into the Fortune 500 companies. Most of them are going to have pretty decent internship and full-time new grad job offers out there, and they also are probably capable of bringing you through the intern to new grad pipeline as well. I think most importantly though is to not skip over the smaller or mid-sized companies that do offer internships for you. These companies are usually hiring a pretty decent intern class year over year, and this is also where I got my start in the whole software CS business. Yes, it's probably not going to be as exciting or fast-paced as if you were at a big tech company, but you're still going to learn a ton, especially if it is your very first experience. These companies may also be a little bit more lenient on return offers or referrals for friends, and generally just don't have the kind of cutthroat competition that you see at these big tech companies about who's going to get a return offer or not. Sometimes it may be a better work-life balance, or you may be located in a lower cost of living area, so the difference in pay may actually be worth it in the end. Fourth is to be creative about how you spend your time. The most common advice that you probably hear as someone with no experience is just do a ton of side projects and you'll get all that experience under your belt. Some of the people that do follow this advice have projects that really skyrocket themselves to fame, and that's awesome. But also, I truly do recognize that there are people out there for whom CS is really just a means to an end, and maybe you're just in CS or tech for the stability, which is also totally valid. If you're not interested in building out a ton of different projects or committing to a long-term project, try committing to a single hackathon or two. It's a great low-commitment way to build out a new app, product, or service in just a few days, and you may get really addicted to the hackathon process, which I know a lot of people do. Yes, hackathons are going to be somewhat of a time commitment, but it's a weekend compared to weeks on weeks of unfinished projects, so do with that what you will. If you're otherwise looking for something that's a little bit more low maintenance, maybe look into being an open source contributor. There are a lot of open source projects on GitHub, which means that the code is freely available for anyone to look at, see, and contribute to. And this is also a great way to get used to the overall release cycle, understanding software and development cycles, and just having your name out there on a pretty popular project too can be a great benefit to your resume. On the flip side, if you're prepping for interviews and trying to cram in 2 hours of LeetCode a day and you're struggling, that's okay. Besides the fact that our attention span is rotting day by day due to months of citing technologies and the immense amount of work and time that goes into creating algorithms to just draw our attention and make us spend more time on our screens. If you're just starting out, it's not going to be fun to LeetCode for 2 hours a day because you're just going to be hitting your head against a brick wall. Try just tackling and thinking about one LeetCode easy problem for 5, 10, or 15 minutes a day and call that a day. Then, as you get more familiar with the solutions associated with each problem, you can then start to move into actually writing out code for tackling some of these LeetCode problems and progress onto your difficult journey. Even if it sounds silly to just spend 5 minutes thinking about a LeetCode problem, it's going to be way more beneficial for you than just staring at your screen for 2 hours, flickering between the different tabs of YouTube, Twitch, and Reddit that you probably have open and aren't actually focusing on LeetCode. Fifth is to do well in your classes. If you don't otherwise have a lot going on in your resume, then this is going to be one of the main factors that people also look at when it comes to evaluating your candidacy and how good of a potential candidate you may be. GPA and grades are certainly not the end-all be-all, but it is going to be one way to have a certain proxy measure of your success and potential success at that company, because if you don't have prior experience, then this is really all they have to go off of. People definitely have different strengths though. If you're struggling in your general education classes such as your chemistry or biology but not your CS classes, then consider putting your CS major GPA rather than your overall GPA on your resume. However, if you're really struggling and do have a lower CS GPA, then certainly not all is lost. There's a great talk by someone who has a 2.5 GPA talking about how they got into the big tech leagues, and that's also certainly possible for you. But if you are generally struggling and looking to also do better, then there's probably a few things you can reflect on and try to do better. Can you spend more time in office hours? Can you spend more time in study groups? Or can you spend more time just starting an assignment earlier and then being able to ask questions more freely? There's a lot of different avenues here, and you don't have to be great at school to be a great software engineer, product manager, or designer by any means. Sixthly and lastly is to get experience. This is the age-old cycle that to get experience, you need experience, and if you need experience, then you need to get that experience in the first place. But experience doesn't just mean having a tech internship under your belt. I bet that your school offers plenty of student positions in your relevant major to get some more hands-on experience. There are a lot of professors at universities that are looking for people to help them with their research, and being a research assistant is a great way to get some hands-on experience and also, show that you're capable of learning new things and kind of stretching your boundaries beyond what you're learning in your classes directly. You can also be a TA for a relevant class to your major. For me, I spent 2 years being a TA for a variety of different CS classes, and it was a really fun and great experience for me, and also taught me a lot through the process of being a TA too. My college also had a lot of software engineering labs on campus as well, so if you were interested in being a software engineer, then you could go ahead and apply for those. And those labs also worked in a variety of different topics too, from open source software to hardware components. Being an officer in a CS-related club is also a great demonstration of leadership, interest, and capability, and you can also tie it into being a more technical club, such as an AI club that does more hands-on stuff, a security club doing capture the flags, or just a general CS club that even does competitive programming. I'm also willing to bet that there are plenty of programs being run at your university that are student-led and a great opportunity to get involved and also get experience. Tying back to my experience here, it was really valuable for me to be the scholarship lead for our school's Grace Hopper Conference Scholarship Program, so I was able to fundraise money and bring tens of women from our school to the Grace Hopper Conference, and it was a really enjoyable and fun experience and really changed the lives of some people that did attend because they got internships and experiences out of that. So bottom line is there are plenty of ways to get involved, build your skills, find opportunities out there, and experience doesn't always necessarily mean an internship under your belt. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below, schedule a call chat with me using the link ak.ms/chatwithlaura, or join the conversation on my Discord channel, link in the description box down below. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you again for a brand new video. Bye.
covered, everything's coming up roses. Peachy, I feel like the world is finally swaying in the sun.